Hey y'all, it's Kim from KGD Creative. I am so ready for spring. The weather this week in Alabama has been fantastic and has certainly encouraged my longing for spring and summer. If you haven't noticed, Easter is right around the corner, and I'm here with a cute A2 card for Easter with a little bit of a twist. I have a white 110-pound piece of cardstock that's cut 4 1/4 by 7 1/2, and I'm going to score it along the 7 1/2 side at 2 inches. Now this cardstock is pretty thick, so I'm going to score it on both sides so that I can get a good score and so that my paper will not crack, hopefully. I also have 2 other pieces of white 110-pound weight cardstock that are cut to 2 by 4 1/4. I've pulled some pattern paper from Echo Park's Have Faith paper pack and cut 3 pieces 1 7/8 by 4 1/8. I've taken some Distress Oxide ink in the color Vintage Photo and inked the edges of the pattern paper on all 4 sides to give it some dimension and a little bit of definition. Now it's time to glue our pattern paper to our white card bases. The first piece is going to go in the 2-inch section of the 4 1/4 by 7 1/2 inch card base that we cut and scored earlier. I'm going to take my time and try to get this lined up just as evenly as possible. This is one thing I really struggle with. I can never really get anything straight. The other 2 pieces of pattern paper that we cut from the Have Faith paper pack will be adhered down to the other 2 pieces of white cardstock that we cut. Remember, the white cardstock that we cut is cut 2 by 4 1/4. So these 2 pattern pieces should fit perfectly in there with just a small border around. I took the Maymay Flora Book 4 and found some images that I really liked. I like that birdhouse that is on the bottom corner of that page that's in my hand now, and I'm also going to take the next page and cut some leaves out of it to go with some flowers that we're going to cut. So here I'm just fussy cutting out the birdhouse. I'm going to leave that little loop there. I'm not going to cut that out because I just want it to look like a little birdhouse sitting on a ledge. And then I'm going to cut out these 3 of these little flowers. Fussy cutting the Maymay paper is so easy and so fun, and the paper is beautiful. So here I'm cutting out 2 of the green leaves that's on that vine there. I just want a couple of leaves to go with the flowers that I'm going to cut out. There are so many images in this Flora Book 4 that are perfect for spring and for Easter. There are some beautiful images of lambs and ducks. It's just gorgeous, and the flowers are just really beautiful. So now I'm going to also ink the edges of the things that I've cut out, the birdhouse, the 3 little flowers, and also the green leaves. I really like the dimension that the Distress Oxide ink gives to the edges of these images. Now we're going to add some real dimension to the flowers. I have a foam pad. It's actually the foam pad out of my Mini Misty. And I have my embossing tool. I'm just going to take that embossing tool and rub the center of that flower until it starts to curl up. It will give it a little cup shape so that it gives it an actual dimension like a real flower. Now it's time to put the card together. I'm going to take the card base that we have cut 7 1/2 by 4 1/4, and we've scored it at 2 inches. So I'm going to fold it on the score line and burnish that down. And here's where our bridge is going to be built. I'm going to take 1 of the 2 by 4 1/4 pieces that we've put together, and I'm going to take some purple tape. I'm going to align the 2 by 4 1/4 piece of paper along the bottom of the card and use the purple tape to glue it or to hold it in place. Then I'm going to take the other 2 by 4 1/4 piece and I'm going to glue it and bridge those 2 pieces of paper together. Now you need to be careful right here and only glue on the top and bottom of that piece of paper, or else you'll do like me and have to wipe it off so that it doesn't glue to the inside of your card. Just going to line that up there, leaving about 1/4 inch on the right side and having it evenly spaced top to bottom. And that's going to bridge the top of that card to the bottom of that card. It's going to leave an opening there on the left side where we can stamp our greeting on the inside of the card, and it will still show when we have the card closed. Just taking my time here to make sure everything is adhered down. And we're going to take the stamp set, Maymay stamp set, Mr. Big Ears 2.0, and we're going to take the greeting, Happy Easter, and stamp on the inside of the card. But we want to stamp with it closed so that we know that you can see it both when the card is open and when the card is closed. So now we get to start decorating the outside of our card. I'm going to take the birdhouse that we cut out and I'm going to glue it to the center of the bridge portion of the card. It will be somewhat in line with the stamped greeting that's on the inside of the card. I'm going to get all of my flowers and my leaves kind of lined up like I want them and get those glued down. I don't know if you can tell, but I took a piece of purple tape and doubled it back on itself and put on the inside of the card to keep it closed while I got everything lined up. That 110-pound cardstock that I have is pretty heavy, and so sometimes it wants to pop open and it makes it harder when you're decorating the outside of the card. Those leaves were giving me a little bit of trouble there with the tweezers. They didn't want to be picked up very well. I don't think so much that it was the leaves as it was the user of the tool. Getting everything lined up, and then I'll glue those down in place. Take my tweezers and pick everything up one piece at a time so that I can make sure that everything is lined up like I wanted it in the beginning. That embossing tool helps also. It gives you kind of something small to hold down those little flowers with while the glue is drying a little bit. So one thing I've noticed about the Bearly art glue is it stays wet just a tad bit longer than art glitter glue, which is good, and it gives you a lot more time to move things and get things where you want them. My quick stick tool has lost its tip. I think I've used all of the goodie on the inside of it. I have a jewel picker somewhere, but who knows where it was. I was looking for it and couldn't find it. Just about got everything lined up like we want it. Okay, we've got our card done, so now let's decorate our envelope. I have a scrap of the pattern cardstock that we used, and I'm going to glue it onto the flap of the envelope so that the pattern paper shows on the outside of the envelope. Now, I know I said earlier don't use too much glue, but right here I'm going to use too much glue. You can see my tip kind of clogged up, and so when I went back in with it, I used way too much glue. And you can see it on the back side when you turn it over. Just going to glue that strip down onto the flap, and then once it's glued there, I will turn it over and take some scissors and trim everything out so that it matches the envelope. Our envelope will match our card. I just think this gives a little bit of a special touch. I like to decorate the envelopes when I'm making cards. I also like to use my longer Tim Holtz shears when I'm cutting something long like that. I can get a much better cut on long straight edges than I can with my cutter bead. Now we're going to go back to the stamp set, Mr. Big Ears 2.0, and I'm going to pull out that border of bunnies. And I'm sorry I'm not quite in frame, but I've stamped that border of bunnies along the bottom edge of the flap of our envelope. So now our envelope is decorated and we have our card finished and we're ready to address it and mail it. I want to thank you for stopping by today. I hope you enjoyed the card. This card is part of the Maymay Made It Pictorial Design Team. I, along with 3 other wonderful ladies, submit at least 2 projects each month over on Maymay's Instagram page. I'll place a link to that in the description box below. These ladies really do amazing work. I really love watching what they do every month. If you haven't subscribed to my channel, I'd be honored if you would. And hit that little bell icon so that you can be notified each time I upload a new video. Until next time, happy crafting. God bless.